Welcome to today's creative journey. We're going to draw a platypus, one of the most unique and cutest animals in the world. With its duck-like beak, soft otter-like body, and strangely flat tail, the platypus is a really interesting subject to try your hand at drawing. Get your paper pencil eraser, and if you like some colored pencils or watercolors. Now let's start from the very beginning. First, imagine the overall shape of the platypus. If you've never drawn one before, imagine a soft body that resembles a large teardrop with a slightly elongated head where the flat beak is attached. The body of the platypus is quite round and plump, so when sketching you don't need to keep the lines too angular. Start with a large oval across the middle of the page. This will be its body. Keep this oval soft because the body is what gives the whole drawing its cute feel. Next, we'll add the head. From the left edge of the body oval, sketch out a smaller oval that extends slightly forward. This oval will be the position of the head. From here, we'll attach the distinctive duck beak. The beak is very important because it gives the platypus its funny and cute look. Draw a flat shape like a large spoon extending in front of the head. The tip of the beak should be slightly rounded, the sides should be slightly wider, and you can add 2 small holes at the top edge for the nostrils. You don't need to get too detailed at this point. Just get the shape right. Keep things light. Now let's move on to the eyes. The platypus's eyes are quite small and set quite far apart. Place 2 small circles on the sketched head slightly higher and back towards the body. Don't make the eyes too big as this will ruin the natural look of the creature. After drawing 2 small circles for the eyes, add a small dot in the middle of each eye to create a look. You can use a light pencil to add a little shade on the upper eyelid to create depth. Next, we draw the tail. The platypus's tail is quite large, flat, and almost paddle-like. Draw it at the right end of the body opposite the head. Start with a flat rectangle, then round the corner to make it softer. The tail doesn't need to be too big, but it should be thick and flat to be true to the species. This can be darkened later to contrast with the body. Next, we add the limbs. The platypus has 4 short, stubby legs with webbed toes like duck feet. Draw the front legs by sketching 2 small ovals slightly diagonally below the head and body. From each oval, extend 3 to 4 wide toes using rounded leaf-like curves. For the hind legs, draw them similarly but place them further back on the body and slightly downwards, giving the impression that the animal is lying down or walking slowly. The toe details don't need to be too detailed in the first step, just show the general shape. Once you have the whole shape, start to reshape it by drawing clearer lines. Look at the overall shape to make sure the proportions are balanced. The body should be large and round. The head should be slightly smaller but still clear. The beak should be natural and not too long, and the limbs should be short and wide. When you feel everything is in harmony, use a darker pencil or increase the pressure on the lines you want to keep. The body lines can be softened, while the beak and tail can be emphasized more to create a distinctive look. Then erase the unnecessary sketches. At this point, you will see the platypus appear clearly and much cuter. Now we will add the fur details and texture to make the picture come alive. The body of the platypus is covered with short, smooth fur, so you can add small, short pencil strokes along the body slightly vertically from the head to the tail. You don't need to draw it too thick, just create a light, fluffy feel. The beak, on the other hand, is smoother and shinier, so keep it smooth, don't put too many strokes on it. The tail has a thick, slightly rough surface. You can add small horizontal lines or bold strokes to show hardness. Next, we move on to shading. The underbelly, under the neck, and back of the legs are all areas where there is natural shadow. Use a light pencil to create the shadow by shading evenly and then blending it in with your finger or paper. The beak can also be lightly shaded on the bottom to make it stand out more. Similarly, the eyes can be shaded on the top to add depth. If you want to use color, this is the perfect time to do it. Platypuses are dark to light, brown with a blue-gray or blackish bill and a tail that is usually darker than the body. You can start with a light layer of color all over the body, then add darker layers in the shadows and edges. With pencils, apply several thin layers to create the soft feel of the feathers. If you are using watercolors, keep the first few layers very thin and gradually increase the intensity to create depth. When painting the beak, keep the color even and slightly shiny, as platypus beaks tend to have a slight reflection. Leave a small light strip along the top edge of the beak for a natural effect. At this point, you can add a little bit of context, like some ripples in the water or grass under the platypus's feet. Since this animal usually lives near rivers and lakes, you can draw some gentle curves to represent the water surface to make the picture more vivid. You don't need to draw too much, just a few lines will be enough to make the space come alive. Finally, look at the picture as a whole again. If there are any points that you want to smooth out, make some slight adjustments. Add some shadow to the tail, increase the darkness in the eyes, or soften the color transition on the body. When you feel everything is harmonious, it means your platypus is finished. Thank you for joining me until the end of today's video tutorial. If you like this tutorial and want me to write more scenarios for drawing other unique animals like pandas, kangaroos, owls, or even imaginary creatures, let me know. Have a fun and inspiring creative journey. Welcome to today's video. While we live in an era of strong technological development, the computer has almost become a familiar friend in studying, working, and even entertainment. But today, instead of turning on the computer and sitting in front of the screen, we will do the opposite, put the computer itself into the paper with beautiful and creative drawings. This tutorial will help you from zero to complete a computer drawing in a simple, clear, and deep style. So prepare drawing paper, pencils, rulers if you want the lines to be straight, and we will start right now. First, imagine the computer you want to draw. You can choose to draw a desktop computer, a laptop, or an all-in-one computer. In this tutorial, we will focus on a laptop because its structure is simple, beautiful, and familiar to many people. A basic laptop will have two main parts, the screen and the keyboard connected by hinges. Visualizing the whole like this will help you to compose the picture more easily and not get confused when going into details. Now let's start sketching the layout. On a piece of paper, draw a horizontal rectangle. That will be the screen. You don't need to draw it too bold, just sketch it lightly for easy editing. Pay attention to keep the ratio between width and height harmonious. Usually laptop screens have a ratio of about 16:9 or 4:3. Once you have the screen frame, draw another smaller rectangle inside, placing it evenly from the outer edge by a small distance to create the screen border. This is where the image is displayed, so creating an additional border will make the machine look more realistic. Once the screen is done, let's move on to the body. Right below the screen, sketch a large trapezoid. The bottom facing you is wider than the bottom behind. This trapezoid mimics the surface of the keyboard and gives the impression that the laptop is tilted slightly towards the viewer. This tilting ratio gives the drawing more depth. You can extend the front line a little longer, then connect it to the screen with two short lines representing the hinges. You can also add some small curves at the hinges to create a more solid and realistic feel. Once you have the overall structure, we start to go into the details from top to bottom. For the screen, you can display a simple background like the sky, a piece of text, or a light gradient. But at this step, just lightly sketch the main areas. If you want a minimalistic drawing, you can leave the screen blank and just lightly shade it to create reflections. Next is the keyboard. This part has many small details, but is very interesting to draw. First, define the keyboard area with a small rectangle located in the plane of the trapezoid. Next, divide the area into smaller boxes by drawing parallel horizontal lines, then vertical lines. You don't need to draw 100% of the keys, just make it look like there are even keys. The top row can be thinner to simulate the function keys. If you want to make the picture more interesting, you can choose to highlight a few keys like the Enter or Space key by making them a little larger or adding a border. Just below the keyboard is the palm rest area. This is an area that many people often ignore, but if you create this area, your laptop will look very real. Draw two parallel lines running in a large trapezoid, then lightly fill it in to create the feeling that this is a flat metal or plastic part. You can also add a trackpad by drawing a small rectangle right in the middle below the keyboard. The trackpad can have slightly rounded corners to make it look softer. After completing the basic details, we will add a very important element, light and shadow. This is what makes the laptop painting look less flat and more dimensional. Imagine the light source is coming from the left. This means that the right sides are a little darker. On the screen, you can create a soft shadow on the right side and the top edge to create a reflection. The keyboard can also be lightly shaded on the right edge of each key, making them appear more prominent. Remember, don't shade too dark at first. Use several light layers on top of each other so that when you increase the shade, the lines will be much softer and more natural. For the body, you can create an effect by shading the bottom edge of the machine and the back of the keyboard. When you extend a soft shadow line behind the machine, it will give the impression that the laptop is actually sitting on a flat surface. You can add some extended trapezoidal shadows behind to create a connection between the object and the background. Once the lighting and shading are done, we move on to the more creative part, decorating the surroundings. A single laptop can sometimes look a bit bare, so you can add a notebook, a pen, a cup of coffee, or a book nearby. With just a few simple strokes, you can transform the picture from a laptop into an inspiring working corner. If you like a clean style, you can choose to create small and simple objects. If you like a detailed style, you can add a charger cable, a computer mouse, or a small potted plant. Once all the details are complete, it's time to look at the whole picture again. Move the paper a little further away to see if the overall picture is harmonious. If the screen is too large, you can adjust the border. If the keyboard is a bit crooked, you can use an eraser to redo a few lines. The most important thing is the balance and the real feel of the object. You can also add some boldness to some areas that need emphasis, such as the edges or hinges, to make the laptop look more solid. And finally, when you feel that the drawing has reached the level you want, don't forget to sign your name in the corner. It's always a moment of completion and your personal stamp on the work. Hopefully this tutorial has helped you feel more confident in drawing tech gadgets and especially turning a familiar computer into an inspiring work of art. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. Wish you lots of creativity and see you again in the next videos. Welcome to today's creative journey. In this video, we will learn how to draw a grasshopper in a lively and attractive way. If you have ever seen grasshoppers in the afternoons in the fields, you will surely remember their agile appearance, strong hind legs, and long antennae. If you have never observed them closely, then today will be a great opportunity for you to not only understand more about the characteristics of this interesting insect, but also know how to express them on paper with soft and personality-filled strokes. Prepare your drawing paper pencil and lots of excitement because we will start right now. First, imagine the overall shape of the grasshopper in your mind. Their body is long and slender, the head is small and tilted slightly forward, the middle part is slightly bulging, and the abdomen is long and runs backwards. The most prominent feature, as you know, is the large and strong hind legs for jumping, and the wings are folded on both sides like thin overlapping leaves. When drawing, it is important that you do not need to imitate the real photo in too much detail. What you need to keep is the general shape and flexibility of this insect. The rest you can completely create according to your own style. Now let's start with the basic frame. This is a light sketch with a pencil helping you shape the composition before going into the details. On the paper, draw a long oval for the main body. Don't worry if it is not beautiful, because this is just the foundation step. In front of the body, you add a smaller shape for the head, slightly tilted to the left or right, depending on the composition you want. When you combine these two parts, you will see the general shape of the grasshopper has appeared gently. Behind the body, you add a slightly pointed line to create the tail. Keep all these lines very thin for easy editing. After you have the body frame, you will add the neck connecting the head and body with a very light curve. Next, we sketch the wings. The grasshopper's wings can be longer than the body, so you draw two long triangles overlapping on both sides. The wing line can be slightly curved, creating a soft and natural feeling. You sketch the general shape first, then gradually edit it when you go into the details. Now we move on to the head, which helps the grasshopper have expression. Even though it is an insect, you can still create a sense of life by emphasizing the eyes and the small mouth. On the head, you draw a round or oval eye placed slightly forward. Inside the eye, you add a small white highlight to create a sparkling feeling. Then you draw two long, soft lines from the forehead up to form the characteristic antenna. The antennae of the grasshopper are long and thin, so you keep the lines subtle, maybe slightly curved, to look more natural. These small details will make the picture feel more friendly and closer. Next, we come to the legs. Grasshoppers have 6 legs, but the most prominent are always the hind legs. Start with the front legs. They are quite small, with 2 or 3 gently bending joints. Draw them as straight curves without too much definition. Next are the middle legs, which are slightly longer and angled slightly towards the hindquarters. Once you have the structure of the front and middle legs down, you can move on to the hind legs. The most important part. First, draw the large curved thighs, which take up almost a third of the body. This is where the grasshopper's jumping power comes into play, so make them thick and have a distinct curve. Next, draw the longer, slimmer lower legs with small spikes along the outer edges. These are the defining features, so you can add more or less depending on your style. Finally, the small feet with 2 or 3 short segments. With the hind legs complete, your sketch will start to look like a real grasshopper. Now it's time to work on the detailed wings. Grasshopper wings have many vertical and horizontal veins, creating beautiful structural blocks. You can use light, straight lines parallel to the main wing line to show the long veins. Then add a few light horizontal lines to create the feeling of thin and transparent wings. You don't need to draw too much, because sometimes minimalism helps the picture to be more elegant. The lower part of the wings can be drawn lighter to create the feeling that the back layer of wings is hidden under the front layer of wings. When the overall shape is complete, we start to move on to the dark and light part, the factor that determines the depth of the picture. Imagine a light source coming from the front left. That means the right side and the underside of the body will be darker. You start to paint the first light layers on the lower abdomen, the hind legs, and the underside of the wings. Then you gradually increase the darkness to create a feeling of soft color transition. Don't try to paint too dark at the beginning because it is easy to create hard patches and difficult to fix. It is best to paint lightly many times to make the picture smooth and natural. For the wings, you can use very light diagonal strokes to create translucency. For the hind legs, you emphasize the small spines to make them stand out more. For the head, you only need to lightly paint the bottom edge to keep the soft feeling. For the antennae, you should keep them the same or paint them very lightly to retain their slender appearance. Once the body has depth, it is time to create the background for the painting. You can add some tall grass, a rice branch, or a small rock to create the feeling that the grasshopper is standing in the middle of nature. The grass lines can be slightly curved to create movement. Adding a background not only makes the painting more vivid, but also makes your character look like they have an environment to exist, thereby making the painting more story-driven. After completing all of the details, take a moment to observe the whole painting again. Rotate the paper, hold it away, or squint a bit to see which parts are too dark, which parts are not balanced. If necessary, you can adjust the wing strokes, make the legs neater, or add a little light to the edge of the body to make the picture more harmonious. And if there is any part that is not satisfactory, do not hesitate to fix it, because fixing is part of the process of learning to draw. Finally, when you feel confident and satisfied, sign your name in the corner of the picture. This is a small moment, but has great meaning because it marks the completion of a work created by yourself. Hopefully, after today's tutorial, you will not only know how to draw a grasshopper, but also feel more love for observing nature and expressing it through art. Thank you for your time. I hope you continue to have a lot of inspiration in the next drawings. See you in the next video.